Ethan hated going shopping with his mom. She always dragged him into all of the boring clothes stores and took forever to find anything she liked. The worst was when she'd run into her friends and waste hours talking while Ethan paced around the store mindlessly, eagerly wondering how long it would be before he could go home and play video games. Today was particularly bad, as a new clothes shop had just opened up that his mom simply needed to explore. The boy rolled his eyes as he watched his mom disappear into the crowd of shoppers, knowing that it was going to be a long day of shopping for her. Already exhausted, he mumbled a simple wish under his breath. "I wish this mall had stores I actually wanted to shop at." A wave of strange sensations washed over him as the words left his mouth. He thought the air conditioning had kicked on somewhere, or maybe it was a wave of scents from one of the candle stores nearby, but he soon felt a tingling sensation down the back of his neck. He reached a hand up and was shocked to feel his own hair cascading down his back, getting softer by the second. He began to walk towards the changing rooms as he felt his hair growing between his fingers, but the odd sensations didn't stop there. His breathing sped up as his height began to increase with each step, causing him to grow dizzy as his perspective shifted. By the time he'd reached the back of the store, he was taller than the clothes rack surrounding him. He looked around for his mom in a panic, but was only met with the sight of his hair tumbling down into his line of sight. He grabbed his head in terror as his clothes began to shift, the fabric tickling his softening skin as it began to rip and slide around his changing body. Sweat permeated his skin as his heartbeat continued to rise, pumping blood through his maturing body. As his mind raced, he closed his eyes and tried to convince himself that this was simply a nightmare, that people didn't just transform like this, but the sensations of his changing body were only getting stronger. He grabbed his hips as they began to widen, while his core tightened up, leaving him with an hourglass figure and an athletic set of abs. He tried to take deep breaths as his shirt lifted up, revealing his alluring new midriff. Each breath resulted in a swelling feeling in his chest, and though he didn't want to look, he could feel his growing nipples beginning to press up against his tightening top. He tried holding his breath to stop his growing chest, but the increasingly pleasurable sensations coming from his budding breasts only seemed to build. With a scream of panic and pleasure, he exhaled and threw his arms behind his head. His growing breasts exploded forward, tearing his shirt and sending unknown pleasures through the boy's quivering body. His moans grew feminine and sultry as the orgasmic feelings rippled through his flesh, surging from his chest down to his groin. He pulled at his own hair as he tried to contend with the confusing feelings racking his mind, refusing to admit to himself that it felt like a forbidden pleasure. He didn't want to be like all the other shoppers in the store, but as his crotch began to invert, he couldn't help but blush and whimper in ecstasy. His eyes began to roll back into his head as the millions of new nerve endings in his crotch became active, sending wave after rolling wave of orgasmic pleasure through his tight, seductive body. His mind was filled with new desires as his new sex began to drip. He didn't know why, but he knew that he needed to be filled down there. Suddenly, a store announcement was made over the intercom about a sale on black dresses, snapping Ethan out of his orgasmic trance. He looked himself over in panic, still unable to accept that he was now a fully grown woman. He tugged his shirt down in an attempt to cover his massive breasts, but only tore it more, exposing his new cleavage. He thought about what to do as his mind raced with new thoughts and urges, finally deciding that he should try to find his mom and somehow explain what just happened. He began walking towards the dresses in the sale section, hoping that his mother would be checking them out as well, but also aware of his growing desire to try one on. He tried to resist his feminine urges, but they seemed to grow stronger every passing second. He would catch himself looking at all the different outfits, imagining what they'd look like on his voluptuous new body. When he finally got to the dresses, he still saw no sign of his mom, but the urge to try on some new clothes was almost overwhelming. An employee came up to Ethan as he stood there and looked around in confusion. "Hi there, are you waiting for a changing room?" the employee asked with a bubbly tone to her voice. She looked at Ethan with a subtle jealousy, her eyes tracing the dramatic curves of his new body. "You look like you could use some better fitting clothes," she said with a chuckle, noticing how tattered his outfit was. "Here, I think this dress would be perfect for your body type," she said as she handed him a skin-tight black dress. Ethan wanted to protest and simply asked the girl to help him find his mom. But as he felt the fabric of the dress, he was overcome with the urge to try it on. The helpful employee ushered him into a changing room, where he looked over himself in shock. He looked stunning. He hesitantly removed his tattered clothes and stared at the full-body mirror in silence, tracing his naked body and shuddering at the feelings coursing through his mind. He was beginning to like how he looked. The estrogen flooding his mind was clearly beginning to feminize his thoughts. But his panic was beginning to fade as he struck a variety of sensual poses in the mirror. His life as Ethan was beginning to slide away from his mind, like the tattered clothes he'd just removed. He felt a new life sprouting in his head, and it felt amazing. He smiled to himself as he remembered a very different childhood, one filled with kisses, compliments, and a dramatic female puberty. He remembered all the boys in his class lusting after his curvy, developed body. He remembered how good it felt to be held and loved by a man, and how happy he was to have a boyfriend that paid for all his shopping sprees. He watched himself in the mirror and grinned as his hair began to change shades, growing into a silky, vibrant red as his new life took root in his mind. Erica's pupils dilated as a pair of glasses materialized on her face, perfectly complementing her sensual visage. She loved how this dress looked on her, and she couldn't wait to get back home to spoil her boyfriend with it. She exited the changing room and told the employee that she'd be wearing it out of the store. The employee happily walked her over to the cash register, and Erica smirked as she felt all the other women staring at her with envy. As she finished paying for her new dress, Erica spotted her neighborhood friend a few aisles down. She squealed and ran over to hug her. "Hey, girl, you find anything you like? This might be my new favorite shop here." "Oh, hey Erica, wow, that dress looks amazing on you. I don't think I could pull it off though," she said with a sigh, looking up and down her friend's curvaceous body. "I'm actually just looking for Ethan. I think he ran off somewhere because I was taking too long to shop again." "Oh, you know how boys are. They'll just never understand the joys of clothes shopping." Erica laughed lightly, tossing her vibrant red hair over her shoulder as she struck a playful pose for her friend. "Seriously though, Ethan's probably off sulking somewhere with his video games by now. You should just let him wander, he'll come back when he's hungry." Her voice carried a sultry confidence, each word dripping with a newfound charisma that seemed to pull the attention of everyone nearby. She didn't notice the way the air around her shimmered faintly, like heat rising off pavement, nor did she see the subtle glances from other shoppers, some envious, some curious, and a few almost mesmerized. Her friend nodded absently, still scanning the store for any sign of her son. "Yeah, maybe you're right. He's been so moody lately. I just wish he'd enjoy these trips a little more, you know." She sighed, then brightened as she held up a floral blouse. "Oh, what do you think of this for me?" Erica tilted her head, her glasses catching the light as she appraised the blouse with a critical eye. It's cute, but you could do better. Let me help you find something that really pops, something to make the other moms jealous." She winked, linking arms with her friend and steering her toward a rack of sleek, modern dresses. As they moved through the store, Erica's heels clicked rhythmically on the tile floor, heels that hadn't been there moments ago, yet felt as natural as if she'd worn them her whole life. But as they browsed, something tugged at the edge of Erica's mind, a faint, fleeting memory of a boy's boredom, of a wish muttered under breath, of a life that wasn't hers. She paused mid-sentence, her manicured fingers hovering over a scarlet dress. Her reflection in a nearby mirror caught her eye, and for a split second, she saw something impossible. Her own face flickered, blending with the sharp jawline and messy hair of a teenage boy. Her heart skipped a beat, and a shiver ran down her spine. "You okay, Erica?" her friend asked, noticing the sudden stillness. Erica blinked, and the vision vanished. She forced a dazzling smile, brushing off the unease. "Oh, yeah, just got lost in thought. This dress would look killer on you, by the way." She held it up, her voice steady despite the strange pulse of adrenaline in her veins. But deep down, a question began to bloom. What if this isn't real? As they continued shopping, a figure watched from the shadows of the store's back corner, a tall, androgynous stranger draped in a long coat, their face obscured by a wide-brimmed hat. They scribbled something in a small notebook, their lips curling into a faint, knowing smile. The air around them buzzed faintly, carrying the same shimmering quality that had brushed against Erica moments before. The stranger muttered to themselves, their voice too low to catch, then snapped the notebook shut and slipped away into the crowd. Back at the racks, Erica laughed and chatted, oblivious to the watcher's departure. Yet with every step, every sway of her hips, the line between who she'd been and who she was now blurred a little more. The mall seemed to hum with possibility. New stores flickered into existence at the edges of her vision, their signs promising exotic wares she couldn't quite read. A perfume kiosk wafted scents that stirred unfamiliar desires, and a distant melody from a music shop tugged at her soul in ways she couldn't explain. As she paid for her friend's new dress, Erica's gaze drifted to the mall's towering glass ceiling. Beyond it, the sky churned with strange, iridescent clouds that no one else seemed to notice. She felt a pull, a whisper of something vast and uncharted calling her name, not Ethan's, but hers. The receipt slipped from her fingers, fluttering to the floor, and she murmured under her breath, "I wonder what else I could wish for." The words hung in the air, unnoticed by her friend, but the mall itself seemed to shiver in response. Somewhere, the stranger paused mid-step, their smile widening as they whispered back into the void, "Oh, you'll see."